This is my home landscaping project. I've taken some pictures which will serve as ideas for anyone else interested in doing some handiwork at home. This guide includes many tips on concreting and bricklaying. A new shed was required to replace the old one. This was located at the side of the yard. Demolition of the old shed could proceed. Due to its poor location in the centre, this would create more open space in the yard. All materials were recycled and used for other projects such as the chook shed. Steve from All Terrain Excavations made short work to level 2 tiers in the yard. No dirt was removed to save cost. It was obvious Steve was skilled and has a good eye for levels. He finished this in 4 hours. This is longer than it took me to install a new washing line. Prior to excavation, I already had a good idea. I wanted to create 2 large level areas which would be divided by a retaining wall and joined by steps. A level pad was dug by hand behind a new shed to store the 10,000 litre water tank. A centre peg was used to draw the circular shape, and guiding stones were used to base the height for all the other levels using the spirit level and straight stick. Remember to ensure there will be enough fall from the root gutter to the top of the tank. Digging the footings for the first low wall behind the shed. This was only a single wall. The footings included steel bars or trench mesh, and I also incorporated drainage and plumbing to and from the water tank. The first footing has been finished. A single brick wall is sufficient for a short rise, 5 or less courses. Notice the corner for added strength and will work as foundation for the curved path past the tank. The footings for the main front garden bed and pond will incorporate single and double brick wall. A collection of steel bars and mesh will add strength to the reinforced concrete structures. Second-hand bricks were cheap and will be covered by rendering when finished. Packing sand was laid and levelled to protect the water tank from damage. The first layer of bricks. The double back wall incorporates bars and mesh melded into the footings to strengthen the core. The left wall will act as footing for the staircase. The weight of the stairs will add strength to the structure. The 1 metre wall is taking shape. The feature garden in the front of the wall will also provide support. The centre of the double brick wall still needs to be filled with concrete. The join between the 2 walls will contain a mass of concrete and steel. Boxing the footing for the curved wall next to the path. Notice there are bars protruding into the connecting path and up into the retaining wall. The double brick retaining wall has been core filled with concrete. Some of the footing for the curved wall has been completed. Notice this footing is level and stepped up. Each step is the height of a brick and a bit for the thickness of mortar. Working out the incline of the curved path can be worked out by knowing the length of the path and the total height from the front and back. This is then divided into metre segments. Each brick you see is the level of the top of the path. I was really happy with the end result, but I needed to double check this multiple times to ensure I got it right. The curved wall is taking shape. This is single brick reinforced by concrete and steel behind it and dirt acting as formwork. You can see the upper wall links into the curved wall. The footing for the upper wall goes all the way to the bottom to reach undisturbed soil footing. There is also linking bars which are driven straight into the dirt. This dirt will be dug away later. Now we are looking at the footing for one side of the staircase, which also merges with the retaining wall. The concrete footings for one side of the staircase is completed and bricks will be used to complete the final footing structure. The concrete footing for the top right wall is completed. I did not use formwork for some of the footing but instead used stacked concrete. This can be achieved if you reduce the water added to the cement. Stacking concrete was a good time-saving technique, but you need to take care to get the right firmness. You need to alter the formula if the sand is wet. The formwork on the staircase is completed. You can see the centre brace to prevent bowing. Wet concrete is heavy, so the structure needs to be solid. You also need to consider removal after the concrete is hardened. There is plenty of steel bars and mesh to strengthen the structure. The front timber form for each step needs to be the correct height to match the finished concrete. This simplifies accuracy as the concreting is hard work and you are liable to make mistakes if you force yourself to make adjustments on the go for different sized timbers. I filled the bottom with rubble, but remember to allow a good clearance under the bottom step, at least 10 centimetres. About 2 metres of concrete was a full day's work for 2 blokes. The curved path came up nice and I was very happy with the incline. Time to lay down some bluestone blocks which are fixed with a dark grey mortar coloured with black oxide. The rough side of the block is facing out, which gives a rustic look. I made up a custom concrete capping with a beveled edge to finish the top. The overflow from the tank will run into the pond. About 100 wheelbarrows of topsoil went into the top lawn. A good rake and plenty of grass seed.
Well, you can track them into the...
The pond and waterfall feature was fun to finish off. Plenty of good garden soil was added to these beds. It is nice to watch the tank overflow into the pond when it rains. but not when there is too much rain.
Holy shit!
The lower left wall has been half done and has been core filled with concrete to ensure we fill it all the way to the bottom. The drain pipe, aggregate and geomatting has been started before finishing the wall. For brick mortar I used 1/4 lime, 3/4 cement in one bucket and then 3 buckets of orange bricky sand. This was a very strong ratio of cement to add strength to the wall. The builder's cement with added ash takes longer to cure and is preferable in summer. Mix well and try to get a good mud consistency to work with. The amount of water will depend on the seasonal temperature and how wet the sand is. In summer, you might make it slightly wetter as it starts to stiffen at the end. I clean the mixer after each mortar run. This is much easier to clean straight after each batch. The string level was cheap, but was not really that useful. I would lay half a dozen bricks at a time. Follow the string line and use a small level on top or a long level on the side of the wall to set the brick straight. I cut the bricks using a chisel. Angled cuts was easier with a 9-inch grinder and diamond blade. The corners were levelled with a straight edge and using your eye. Sometimes there was more cement than brick. The string line can be set by wrapping around a brick and using a second or third brick to hold it in place. The other end you can set the brick in place and pull the string tight and hold it in place with your thumb. Then you can wrap the string around the brick to prevent slipping and then return it to its initial tight position and secure it with a second brick. Then use a level to adjust the string. Notice the wall is leaning towards the dirt diffraction. It is not perfectly straight. This was intentional. Don't forget to raise the height of the string to allow for the mortar. And don't forget the brick ties. The gravel sand mix is about 50-50. This end of the wall is practically freestanding like a column and needed to be strengthened with steel and concrete. The concrete used to fill the wall centre is very wet to enable it to flow into the tight internal gaps. I also used a steel bar to poke the wet concrete down. The concrete wall capping was made from same size timbers with a quad at the bottom of one side to leave a beveled edge. These timbers could be reused and are made 4 at a time. I normally allowed a week for the cement to cure before stripping the moulds. Timber boards prevented sticking. Smaller sizes could be easily catered for in the same mould and cut later. Chicken wire was cut to size and inserted halfway while adding concrete. A couple more of black oxide was added to all visible concrete to darken it for a better look. This time the mix is not so wet and heaps when filling the wheelbarrow, but it levels when you shake it. Level with a straight stick, smooth with a trowel, and do the edging while the cement is very wet. Add dashes of colour. I used a little black, brown, red, and even terracotta. Allow to absorb, then trowel in gently. I was not after a perfect smooth finish, so I normally did not go over it later when it was hardening. The mix for the rendering was 1 10-litre bucket of off-white cement, 3 buckets of orange bricky sand, 1 cup of terracotta colour powder, and 1 cup of Bondcrete liquid bonding agent. I added enough water to give it the same consistency as mortar. It should apply easily and smoothly. Circular strokes were the best, which left a curved, staggered impressions in varying directions. The more I went over and reworked it, the worse it seemed to look. The paving was surrounded in coloured concrete edging to match the wall capping. This edging will ensure the pavers do not move. The timber deck walkway was also matched into the patio area, which was cut from red gum rail sleepers. The drainage was also integrated along this decking, which leads to the shed corner.